like, what's this mindfulness thing, mate? And they say to me, because, as someone's coach, I'm a bit of a trusted friend and advisor, and they say, look, I'm reading about this mindfulness everywhere. What's the go with it? What is it? So I thought I might give you some hints and tips in what it is and why it works and what you could do to use mindfulness to improve the quality of your life. And really, that's what mindfulness does. That's a consequence of practicing mindfulness. It's actually about increased quality of life, feeling more centered, feeling more whole, feeling more complete, feeling like life is working. That's a big promise when you think about it. There are not too many concepts in life that say just do this one thing and you're going to get benefits in every area of life. And I'm serious. What you'll find is your relationships go better. What you'll find is you'll feel healthier. You'll do things that are better for you in terms of your health. You'll find that work goes better. You'll feel your business runs better. All sorts of benefits accrue from mindfulness. So it has the appearance of a miracle drug. And in fact, it also at the same time has the appearance of snake oil because it can do all these things from this one concept. So people get suspicious about it and you're entitled to be suspicious. Let me lay out to you why it's both, but more one than the other. So it's snake oil from the point of view, it's painted as a miracle fix oil. It's not that. It's nothing like that. What it is, it's a brilliant technique for giving yourself brain space, which allows you to self-heal, to recalibrate, to recover from stress, to perform better. There's an almost endless list of benefits as a consequence of brain space. So when we look at mindfulness and say, what is it? It's actually the single-minded application of your intelligence. So mindfulness can actually be done anywhere. What it means is to focus on something to the exclusion of everything else. So how does it work, or why does it work, is probably they're the same question, really. I can really only talk to you from examples that have worked for me and suggest that you find some for yourself. There was a time in my prior life when I was more active, when I was racing go-karts with my mates. It's a kind of a pretty mad activity. A couple of old guys like me would get together, we've got this go-kart, we race it against other old guys like me, and we'd have a fat time thinking that we were Formula One legends and all that sort of stuff. However, half an hour in a go-kart, because those things they accelerate so quickly, they corner so hard, they're really high performance machines. What that means is a massive amount of G-forces, and what it means, you've got to pay attention. And so the idea is to drive as fast as you can means to be on the edge of adhesion, the edge of losing it, the edge of skidding off. So we have to be at the point where we're nearly skidding off, but not, because skidding off is like ultra bad. And of course, you don't want to show your mates how you can skid off, which I have demonstrated on numerous occasions how to skid off. But of course, to go quickly is really an art form. And of course, what it takes is intense concentration. And that means understanding how I'm going to move the wheel a fraction instead of jerking it like that, and how I'm going to look where I want to go instead of looking at where I don't want to go and crashing into it. So there's a lot to it. What it means is half an hour in a go-kart, I get out, I'm physically exhausted from the G-forces, I'm covered in dirt and grease, it smells, it's smoky, I'm covered in sweat dropping down the inside of my helmet, and so I'm a mess and I'm exhilarated. So how come we can get filthy, dirty, covered in sweat, exhausted and be exhilarated? Well, because during that half an hour, the concentration was so intense that I'm not anybody's father, I'm not anybody's husband, I'm not anybody's boss, I'm not anybody's coach, I'm not anybody's anything. There's just one world. And all the other worlds that are truly my worlds that I live in most of my life, they've just vanished. And that creates brain space, even though the brain's very active. In other words, this single-minded activity, the focus on one thing, actually gives the rest of the brain a huge rest. And that's the effect of it anyway, because it's actually working. So we can rest it while we're working. So if you go to a workshop on mindfulness, and they're fantastic things, I'd recommend them. If you go to a mindfulness workshop, typically what they're going to get you to do is walk across the room, taking as long as you can, like half an hour to walk across a 10-metre wide room. Because what they want you to do is walk as slowly as possible. You've got to pick one foot up as slowly as you can, move it forward as slowly as you can while you're balancing on the other one, put it downhill first, roll across the foot and onto your toes, and then on with the next one. If you can take half an hour to get across the room, you win. You'll get there last, but that's winning, so because you've taken the most time. What does that do? It forces you to focus on how you walk. Most people walking slowly, unbalanced. And so We're paying attention to the muscles in our legs and our toes and our feet, and it's a single-minded activity. Another version of that is once you've had enough of the walking, they sit you down and give you a candle and light it and say, stare at the candle and see if you can not think. So the whole idea is to not think, just look at the candle. Most people after half an hour have entered a daze or a trance and are absolutely loving it and don't like it when we say, okay, put the candles out, we're now going to talk about what your experience was like. It can be difficult to get into because the mind wants to wander everywhere. The go-kart forces our mind into it and the walking forces our mind into it. The candle is very kind of laid back and kind of plenty of room for mind wandering, so it takes a bit more corralling the mind and forcing it into shape. We give people a sultana and say, just put that in your mouth and see if you can take 20 minutes to eat that. So you kind of got to get the skin off with just your tongue and your teeth, those kind of things. Suck it, move it, park it up in the between your gums and your cheek, those kind of things. We do meditation. We do all sorts of things which allow people to get into a meditative state whilst they're awake, whilst they're conscious, whilst they're doing things. Invariably, when we say, how was that? Overwhelmingly the response is, that was fantastic. What happened? Why do I feel good? In other words, it's kind of like you come back from some place you went to that you don't know where that place was and just feel like you visited some kind of rejuvenating, revitalizing kind of health spa. So those things are fantastic. But going to a workshop is sometimes not as practical as looking at what you could do at home. And I guess that's where we come in right now. There are things that you can do at home using your own guidance that are just going to be absolutely as good as my wild ride in the go-kart. Pretty much that boils down to you could do the mindfulness walking at home, you know. Next time you go to turn the TV on, instead of grabbing the remote and clicking it like that, you could say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to mindfully walk to the TV and push the button. And then I'm going to mindfully walk back. By then it will have turned itself on and I'll watch the show that I'm watching. Walk as slow as you can, focus like we talked about before. Washing up, you could, instead of saying when I've finished the washing up, I'm going to have a cup of tea, focus on right now. Because that's really the secret ingredient in mindfulness is focusing on right now. And so when you're doing the washing up, you could be feeling for the texture of the water when it's got detergent in it as opposed to regular water. Feeling for the texture of the plates, the temperature of the water, what the cutlery feels like when you sharpen it, what it's like to kind of dig around there and worry about grabbing a knife and those kind of things. You could bring your mind to the task at hand instead of letting it wander off on some other thing about my favourite TV show's coming up, so I need to hurry or whatever. In fact, the best book I ever read about mindfulness and one of the top 10 books in my entire life is called The Miracle of Mindfulness. Thich Nhat Hanh, a South Korean or South Vietnamese monk. Brilliant book, and his example is the washing up. So I'd recommend you read that book because profound piece of work. You can look at how you start the car. As you go out and go somewhere, you can get into the car and pay attention to how you get in the car. Does your bum go in first, or do your legs go in first? Do your shoulders, your hands? When you get in the seat, what do? Do you wriggle in the seat and then grab the seat belt, or you're busy putting the keys in the ignition and then you grab the seat belt? What is the first part of the car that you touch? Is it the gear stick, the steering wheel, the whatever? By paying attention to what you're doing, what that does is it brings you into the moment. That's, like I said, the secret ingredient. Equally, you could do this mowing the lawn. You could be paying attention to how you're walking while you're pushing the mower and what the mower's doing and what the sounds are going on. What other sounds can you hear? When you walk past a tree, actually see the tree. Actually see the grass going out and into the catcher or spitting out on the lawn or whatever it is. So mindfulness has the advantage of being able to be done at every moment. It's really you watching you, doing you, while you focus on being you. Fabulous concept. I can't overemphasize how good it would be. For most people, the problem is we forget to do it. We start out the week doing some mindfulness, and as the week gets busy, we kind of forget. So therefore, the trick with mindfulness is put it in your diary, because as soon as it goes as an entry into your diary, it becomes a logistical thing, not a kind of like an organisational thing. And that's going to make it work. So get it in your diary and teach yourself. No one can teach you mindfulness. You will teach yourself.